Hello and welcome to Legends Cast, a podcast about the cards, the meta, and the community of the Elder Scrolls Legends. My name is Mark, and I'm one of your hosts. I'm from outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and with me, I have my co-host, Dead Broke Nerd. Dead Broke Nerd, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing all right. It's been a bit of a long week, but we're getting there. I did have a little bit of time to play some cards over the Thanksgiving holidays, and kind of recharge the battery a little bit when it comes to content creation. So that's fun. I might even stream sometime this week. So hey.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sure it's good to be able to, kind of get a break, unplug, and you got to travel a little bit. Or, I mean, I don't know how far you travel, but you were at least away from your area for Thanksgiving, which kind of gives you the opportunity to just, I guess we'll talk about today during the content creation portion, but just a chance to get a break from the grind of content creation.
Well, and you can play games knowing, well, I can't be recording this even if I wanted to.
Sure, I have to just be enjoying this.
Exactly, and just playing for fun was different. I don't do that as much as I really should. Is just play the game because it's fun. So
what have you been dabbling around with in Legends this past week?
Well, I did drop a new video today, which was I played with a little bit, which is a Turbo Ramp Scout deck.
Turbo Ramp?
Yeah.
Do you play the Prophecy that ramps you and your opponent at the same time?
No, I don't play Jigalag's Incursion, but I do play Whodunit. And that has actually been pretty cool. Like I run 2 copies in it, and it's been very good so far. But yeah, so I actually have a couple different variants I've been screwing around with, trying to figure out what the best build is, and like one of them is more like combo driven, as in like not necessarily true combo, like it's not like a OTK or anything like that, but like I'm trying to run like squishes and run things that benefit from squish. I've got builds that are just kind of
you got like Night Talon Lords and
that
Blood
build,
Magic Lords.
Well, and the kind of the key there is it's like Tree Minders, Hist Mages, things like that. But then of course I'm also running Pure Blood Elders. And the Pure Blood Elder is perfect with like Histgrove and Whodunit, because it doubles down on those things. So particularly if you have a free Whodunit, right, and you can just play it with your Pure Blood Elder and jump 4 max Magicka like that, which is really cool.
Yes. Now, Whodunit, how does that get discounted?
For each creature in your grave. So
okay.
And of course I'm running Merchant's Camels to thin. So it helps out with getting creatures in the grave and stuff like that. It's pretty fun. I mean, it's not a great deck, but it can win games, and it's just different. And, I was struggling a little bit because somebody requested on my channel that I do something with, like, Control Scout. So I was trying to mess around with, like old Shout Scout and, like, revamp it with new stuff. And I didn't find a build that I felt could win in enough matchups. There were the matchups where I was like, oh, this is easy, right? Because it's super, super defensive. Like, Shout Scout used to be, like, the hardest control, and now it's definitely not. And the problem there is that, like, there's so many, we talked about, like, proactive and reactive stuff. Like, there's so much reactivity, and the only real proactivity that you have is ramping.
In Scout, that's really all that you do get. Right. That's your most proactive game plan if you're not playing goblins.
Yeah, and so like and you have to run weaker cards if you want them to be able to like take an aggressive stance. Like Shout Scout just cannot go aggressive, which means if you run into any number of other control decks, you just almost can't win unless they get really bad draws, or unless you can get your giant bat cycling engine somehow online very, very early, with Soltaires and Parthenax and stuff like that. And that's hard to do early on.
Yeah, that's not easy to pull off.
Right. And so I just find that, like, it just had a hard time. So I was like, all right, I want to look for something that can, like, slam some big bodies and attack if it needs to. And, Pure Blood Elder's pretty big. Ramping up to early Odiving is pretty solid. I mean, I even have a build that I don't think is very good, but like it wants to ramp up into Scale On and run a couple Swift Strikes. I mean, you could do that in Scout.
Sure.
So I don't know. I think that one's like the least good, but that was the idea, is to try to find a kind of
You've been
control
trying to make
scout
hulking
that could.
scale. You've been trying to make hulking scale work for quite some time.
Well, I actually feel
It's
like
kind of like the dream.
there is an environment in which scale on Archer is actually pretty good. A slower environment where aggro is not as strong. Now that Archer's Gambit got nerfed, it definitely took a hit to its aggro matchup. But in environments on the ladder where you're seeing tons of control Telvanni and Tribunal, I think scale on Archer is legitimately good. It's a meta choice, not so much like a general good deck. But it's got a lot of skill points to it. Like I think Scale on Archer is solid. Scale on in any of the other, I haven't found a build that Scale on really works in any other class though. So
Yeah. Yes. It Archer is probably the best place for it.
well, because you can pseudo ramp with like Astrid, Brotherhood Slayer, Torval
Sure.
Extortionist, and basically
one-turn ramp.
you're basically playing a mid range build, but you have a 10 cost finisher that you can also like combo OTK with a couple swift strikes. So like, Scale on is not its win condition against a mid-range deck, but Scale on is a trump card against a control deck because it can't be screwed with, at least not by much.
Sure.
So yeah,
Well,
I mean, that was successful in the past. It wouldn't be great in this meta because we talked about it, like aggro's in a really good place right now, especially Gabos, but other builds too. Crusader.
Aggro is very, very fast, and that makes sense. There's been a pretty good rise of what I have experienced, a pretty good rise of control decks in the meta as a product of that. And we are going back to some more like classic control decks. I've seen a decent amount of Telvanni on the ladder. I've seen a decent amount of Tribunal on the ladder, a decent amount of Guildsworn on the ladder. You are seeing some control come back. I've been playing Empire. That's kind of been my go-to deck. I get on it and been, I have found that I've actually had some quests recently that haven't been the easiest in the world to complete. And so I've been, working on finishing those up, and that hasn't always been easy. With the holidays, with kids, with all of the chaos of life, it's not always easy to find time to log on. In fact, I missed my first daily login in a really long time, completely by accident. But somehow December 1st, I completely missed logging in. And I know why, because it was Sunday. Of course, I work for a church. So I woke up, I have to be there at like 7:55. I woke up, it's like 7:42. And I don't know what happened. My daughter slept for once, I guess. And so I wasn't up really crazy early. So I think that's what happened. I usually wake up in the morning. One of the first things I do, open up TESL, see what my quest is, usually re-roll it because it's usually for a pack or something. And then, go on with my day. Didn't get a chance to do that. But I've been playing Empire a little bit. And actually, I got a chance to stream last week for maybe an hour or two in the evening. I was holding Arya and just got a chance to actually chat with a couple of really cool guys who joined in on the stream, who've been listening to the show, which was really awesome. If I could remember their screen names, I'd give them a shout out, but I can't remember. But we were just talking about life and family and things as I was streaming, and just casually with this Empire deck, which I think was Voldir's Empire deck that's now been tweaked from the Masters series, just casually went straight to rank 3 on the last day of the month. So
nice.
It's pretty strong. I was messing around with it a little bit today when I had the opportunity, but I'll definitely have more of an opportunity to play here soon because I deleted Teamfight Tactics from my computer last night. It wasn't a rage quit, but it was I am done with you.
That's funny.
Done with you.
You gonna jump in on the Dota Underlords hype? It's got duo mode.
It's got what mode?
It's got duos. You can play with a partner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's tempting. I just bought Elder Scrolls Online because Black Friday had Elsewhere and the 2 expansions with the base game for $20. So I think that's the next. That's really good. I think that's the next one I'm checking out. So I think Elder Scrolls Online is the next game. We talked off stream, but I picked up a new GPU for my computer so that it will actually run Elder Scrolls Online, and so I'm gonna be checking that out the end of this week. But who knows? I did like auto chess, so maybe I can be convinced to play some duos and Dota Underlords with you, DBN.
Yeah, I think Underlords is actually in a really good spot right now. They have, I don't know if Teamfight Tactics has this, but they have what's called a jail system. It's a rotating jail where basically, to kind of solve the issues that some other games have had and Dota Underlords used to have, they would, where like players would just obsessively play one strategy over and over and over again, or one strategy might be really, really strong. So what happened is that they added a bunch of new characters, and then they have a rotating jail where X number, and I think right now it's like 10 characters, will be removed from the ability to be drafted. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So like they won't show up in the packs, right? And so that will obviously, like, okay, well, if this one character that finishes off this Hunter Alliance is gone, right? Well, okay, I may still be able to finish the Hunter Alliance, but I'll have to use what might be a less generally viewed to be less good, or maybe one that, okay, normally I would play Medusa because it's got, a scaled bonus as well as the Hunter bonus, but I can't get Medusa because it's locked out. It's in the jail, so maybe I need to go for, Sniper, which has Deadeye and Hunter, and now I might do Hunters and Deadeye instead of Hunters and Scaled. So it's got a lot. It really favors the more adaptive players, I feel like, and I've been loving it. I've been doing really well in it, which I feel like is a symptom of the game being now more suited to my more experimental mentality. When I play that game, even when they didn't have a jail, I would always be like, ooh, I want to try this with this thing and see if it works. And now, of course, people who are really honed in on certain strategies tend to not do as well, because if they're obsessing about forcing one, you can't just force a strategy, because every day that thing might not be there, right?
Yeah.
So I really love it. You have to kind of just learn, be more of a generalist, which I love.
That's cool.
I really like that. Yeah.
Very cool. Well,
there's my pitch. That's my pitch for Underlords for you.
For Dota Underlords. I might check it out. So there has been some news in TESL, and some things going on, which is really cool. Why don't we go ahead and move on over to some Elder Scrolls news? Okay, so in the news, we've had a couple of things that happened. I did talk last episode a little bit about the Invade secondary nerf and the refund that we got from Soul Gems. DBN, I didn't know if you wanted to share any thoughts that you had about that, being we didn't get a chance to talk together about that last week.
About the Invade nerf?
Yeah, I didn't know. Maybe did you think is it too heavy-handed? Is it just right? I mean, I haven't seen combo invade since then, because I think they've pretty much annihilated that.
Well, so what you can't do now is play the multiple gates and have it upgrade both gates at a time. Yeah, that's how it always should have been. I mean, literally, when it came out, I talked to Silverfuse about how, like, the wording of it was really suspicious, and how we were thinking, like, maybe they like should have worded it differently so that this didn't happen, and then it did happen way worse than we even thought. And so, like, I think that this is clearly the design intent.
Yes.
And so, if people are upset about it because now the ridiculously broken thing that doesn't even really make a lot of sense is gone, okay, I don't really have a lot of pity for you, to be completely honest. I don't think that ever should have been a thing, and so now that it's not a thing, I'm happy, and I might even go play Invade. I haven't really touched it because
now that it's not cool, hipster DBN can go check it out.
Yeah, I'm guilty there. Yeah, I'm a TCG hipster. I'm always playing the stuff that nobody else wants to. But yeah, I might go check it out now, because like I also don't like playing the overpowered thing. Like are you familiar with like the Magic like types of players, the different types of Magic players, like Spike, Johnny, Timmy? Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's basically a simple way, and it's a very general, like, broad thing. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's a simple way to characterize the types of players and how they derive pleasure from playing a game, right? So you have Spike, and Spike just cares about winning. Spike is going to be the person to grind top 100 every month. Spike, and not that they don't enjoy smaller things in the game, but their primary point of enjoyment is winning and performing well, right? So they don't mind playing the really powerful busted deck if it means that they're winning the game and being competitive. So for instance, if a Spike goes to a tournament and wins 8 games out of 10, right? Even if 8 of those games were blowouts and the other 2 were, and the 2 losses were really close, Spike is still theoretically upset because he didn't win those 2 games, right? Sure. Johnny derives majority of pleasure from creating, and so a Johnny will say, okay, oh man, like I am having my own spin on things, I'm creating my own things. That's where Johnnies derive the most pleasure. I think there's a lot of Johnnies in TESL actually.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There are a lot of people who their greatest amount of enjoyment is found in deck building. Even newer players, really, non-competitive level players, like they're in newer players, they really do, I think, find a lot of enjoyment out of creating their own thing.
And then Timmy, and Timmy also often is kind of understood as a dumb player, which is not the case. But Timmy is a player that derives satisfaction from big plays, not necessarily winning plays. Not necessarily their own creation of plays, but big plays. So traditionally, like, at Yu-Gi-Oh, a Timmy, and Timmy was often because, like, you'd get these younger kids who would come to Magic tournaments or whatever, and
is that the name of the kid from South Park who died every time?
No, that's Kenny.
Kenny? Yeah. It was close.
But Timmys would come and they would be like, oh, well, I play this cool combo, and you're like, that's cute, but I just counterspell it, right? But to them, satisfaction was through, if they play 10 games, they get blown out 7 of them, but in 3 of them, they win by playing this dope-ass combo, then they're happy, right? It's about the execution of a really cool big play, big splashy thing. Summoning giant dragons, okay? That's the standard.
Sure.
I summon Blue Eyes White Dragon. That's a Timmy play, right? It's not necessarily good play, but it's cool
good
and dope.
They did it.
Right. So in my mind,
the invade combo was a Timmy combo.
Well, it was a Spike and Timmy. Once it was solved, there wasn't really much creative about it, right? It was simply right. But I mean, as a player characterization, like I in some games have been Spikes, but in TESL, I'm a Johnny. I just like playing weird crap, but I still have that thing in the back of my head that, dang it, I want to win with it too, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's great if you play a couple of games and you're playing something creative, but if that creative deck loses like 5 or 6 games in a row, it's not really fun anymore.
Right. And a lot of players tend to be like one primary and one secondary, where it's like, okay, I'm a Johnny. I really love creating weird things and fun things, but I also want to win with it. So it never gets too out of control or too wacky or crazy, because I'm not going to win with it. So I always like to say, like, I play off meta that can still win. Is how I characterize the kind of decks I like to build.
I definitely play like I have phases, I think. So after the Moons meta, I was a Spike. Like, I just wanted to win. I grinded a lot of games. I was fighting, I think I ended a couple of seasons in the top, 200 or 300 in the legend rank. And then what happens is when I get into an area where I'm not like, I kind of become a Johnny, and then I get creative, but then I just go back to the same thing over and over again. So it's like Slay Halalu for a long time. It's been Skeletons most recently. But I still have that Spike element, like where I do want to play something weird and a little janky, but I do want it to be suboptimal. I do want to play around a theme a lot of times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to lose every game, which is why Sorcerer Skeletons is my go-to deck right now when I want to play something that's not on ladder, and Tribunal Skeletons never materialized in any sort of a real way because it's fun, but it's awful and it never comes together. And so I just lose to everything. I just can't play it. But yeah, I think kind of I go through phases, and there was some satisfaction, kind of like the Timmy satisfaction, when you're playing Invade, when you pull off the big thing, right? And it happens. It happened really consistently. When you pulled off the big thing, sometimes it does feel really good. And I think that's interesting because you would say like, oh, that's Timmy is not the smarter player, but some of the big plays that you can pull off in TESL require you to be wildly intelligent. Um, I
Well,
think of things like
yeah, I
Genius
think.
Path Mage combo. That's like a big thing, and it's really cool when it happens.
Mhm.
But you have to be super smart to know what order to play stuff in and how to play it out.
Yeah, like I've always said, like I think like there's some misinterpretations of the kind of player profile things from Magic, and it's definitely not perfect. It's just a general idea of the way to understand what people have fun with, not necessarily how smart they are, how good they are at the game.
Yeah, but what
You
they
can have,
enjoy.
but what they enjoy exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah, what
maybe a Temmie will get fed up and go take a top tier meta deck that isn't super flashy. Because that's the thing. Traditionally the idea is that a Temmie, will probably have fun winning, but might have fun winning in a certain way, right? So winning by a margin of 2% versus winning by a margin of 20%, that's going to favor the Temmie. The Spike doesn't care how they win; they just want the win. You know what I mean? They might analyze it later to see how they could have gotten that win easier, but the point is, it's not about that individual game, it's about the result of the game.
that game was I won. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. And that is for some people the sense of satisfaction at the end is to win.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to getting some of that, we got the refund. I mean, I'm sure you felt good about getting 3,600 soul gems for free that you probably didn't expect to get.
Yeah.
No?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I said in the last half episode that I was glad to get it. I wasn't one of the ones on the boat of thinking that it was necessary.
Yeah, I don't on the at the risk of people being mad at me, I
Sure.
didn't like that they gave it out. I
Mm,
mean, obviously, I'm glad I got it. Right? Cool. I
sure.
get some more legendaries. Still need to craft some of those Rimmen siege engines or whatever they are, because I haven't made any of those yet. Whatever those are, the the 4 attack one that like
Oh
your
yeah,
creatures
yeah.
do. I've always wanted to play with those, but I've never crafted them. So I'll probably craft those up and mess around with them at some point. But so cool, yeah, woo, free stuff, right? I didn't like I didn't like the way it went down, where it was like a limited time. You have to claim it.
That is a little weird
That
that you
felt
only had a really small chunk of time to be able to get those gems.
That felt sketchy to me. One, but two, even before that, I didn't like that they. I didn't like that they did that. Okay, because I felt like it was giving into this mob mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like.
It's a dangerous precedent to set.
It is. It's the precedent of it where we can whine and we'll get free stuff. Right? And there's already so much goddamn whining. I mean, I'm sorry, but there's so much freaking whining in this community already. Like, I'm getting frustrated with it because I'm still finding so much joy in this game of cool things that I get to play with. And it feels like people just don't. Maybe people are playing too much. I mean, I hate to say it. Like, I've been playing less and enjoying it more. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I've had a similar experience.
I mean, distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? But I I don't like that it felt like they were bullied into doing it. I didn't really feel like any one card was necessary. It would be one thing if they said we're making this change. Here's the stuff. Here's some stuff. That feels like it's them saying, here you go. And maybe they should have done that. I'm not saying they shouldn't have done that. But I'm saying the choice to then go back later and say, we're placating you, appeasing the player base. I mean, I don't like that standard. And I think that there's already so much, complaining. Now people have been, psychologically reinforced that if they whine about something enough, they might get free stuff. It's not that there might be a balance patch, not that there might be, bug fixes. That's all appropriate things to whine about, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah, get it fixed.
But
yeah.
getting free stuff because I complained.
Yeah,
that just
if
feels...
we get enough people to post on Reddit
Yep.
that you're not giving us what we want, then we get 3 free legendaries.
Yeah, that...
Okay,
and it just felt like there was this huge charge for it that didn't feel even quite fair or necessary.
No, I agree. I didn't understand why there were so many people outraged that didn't get a refund for a mechanic that was adjusted,
It was a mechanic
not a card
adjustment.
that was adjusted.
Yeah.
A mechanic adjusted that they complained and wanted adjusted.
Yeah.
Like it seemed to me that the same people or very a similar group of people who were upset that the mechanic wasn't being changed, then got upset when the mechanic did get changed and they weren't rewarded for getting what they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't actually bring that up when I talked about it because I just didn't really want to get into it. But you're right. Like
I mean,
my first reaction, I think someone messaged on our Discord and said, "Hey, log in, you get 3,600 gems right now." And I said that is a dangerous thing to start doing.
yeah.
That is
Look,
dangerous.
I mean, I just got an email. Now, I know this is a very different thing. Of course, they're in beta. They're trying to stir up support for it. But I just got an email from Mythgard saying, "Happy holidays. Here's some free codes. They work the same for everybody. You know, everyone can use the code once, and it'll give you 3 free packs and a cool card back. Go ahead and use it. Happy holidays, guys." Right? That's great.
Yeah.
Free stuff's not the problem. It's the way that
Sure.
it's bullying the company to get free stuff because the company is scared of bad press.
Yeah, because on Thanksgiving we got free stuff. On Thanksgiving we actually got what a Jaws pack, a regular pack, and an arena ticket
No,
for
I didn't.
free in the game. Yeah, if you logged in on Thanksgiving Day,
Yeah, I
they
didn't.
basically said like, "Hey, we're thankful for you. Here is 2 free packs and an arena ticket." And that's great. Like that's awesome. And you're never going to hear me complain about that. I thought that was great. It wasn't necessary. Thought it was great, but it does set a strange it sets a strange thing in place that if people get outraged enough on Reddit and they get enough negative feedback on something that the community can kind of force them into giving them money or free. I mean, it is money, right? It is.
Sort of.
Yeah, I mean the gems have value in some way, right? You would have if you wanted to just go get those gems that day, you probably would have had to
Pay a couple
spend some money to
bucks.
buy some packs or something.
Sure.
So it maybe it's not money, but it's them giving you value of some type. And so yeah, it is.
Yeah, again,
It's a
it's not
dangerous
this.
thing to do.
And it's not this one situation that's really the problem. It's the way that it unfolded and the precedent that it sets. And again, like I said, I mean, I don't blame you for not wanting to get into it, but I always tell the kids that I coach, I don't mind being the bad guy because if it's something that I believe in and if it's something that I find a problem with. So sorry if you don't agree. That's okay. We don't have to agree.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at. It bothers me, and it concerns me. It bothers me on a personal note because I'm a student of history. All right, I have a degree in history, and when you start appeasing people, it doesn't work out. There's like I can tell you a dozen examples off the top of my head of where people just kept appeasing and it doesn't work out. Okay, like it's not a great way to do business. It's not a great way, and it really, frankly, like even on a minor moral scale, it just feels slimy. So,
Well, yeah, I won't. I'm not going to adventure that far to say that it's immoral or morally slimy to give up the gems. But I don't disagree with you in any way that it is a dangerous thing to start doing. I hope that we don't see any more of it. I don't know. I just don't want to give. It's like you're giving quite a bit of power to people who are willing to jump on Reddit and write a negative post about
that's what
you.
I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not
You
saying
just-
that. I'm not saying that the people who got the gems and were happy are the problem. Not at all. I'm not even saying the people that questioned the decision for them not to give gems out for the nerf are the problem necessarily. It's just this. It's the level of entitlement that concerns me. You know, we are owed this. No, you're not. I mean, ultimately it's you still have the cards. They didn't delete the cards. They didn't put them in a Hall of Fame. Okay, the cards say the same dang thing. Honestly, yeah, Invade's not as good. Is it still playable? Yeah. Like mechanics changes that, frankly, the community at large wanted were implemented. The situation felt odd, and the level and being entitled to it is what concerns me, not the, I do think, frankly, it would have been really big of Sparky Pants to have said, hey, we're making these mechanics changes. We understand it's going to affect the power level of these cards in an indirect way. Here's some cool stuff. I think they should have done that. I think the foresight there would have been, somebody in that room should have been like, hey, maybe we should give people some stuff, you know,
Before they get mad.
well, before they get mad, or just to show that we care, right?
Sure.
So like, it's a multifaceted issue, and I really don't want to come off too judgmental of any one individual. The mob mentality concerns me.
Mm.
And it has, I mean, that this isn't the only example of that. We've seen that over and over again. You know, I mean, no offense to anybody who does, but I don't go on Reddit much just because I don't want to get involved in that.
Yeah, it's a hot
well, because
mess.
I look at things and I think, oh, I have an insightful response, and then I realize if I type out this dang insightful response, it's just gonna stir things up more, and like
you're just gonna get trolled back.
you're just gonna either people are just gonna ignore it if they don't want to hear it, or people will get angry and start raging back or take it out of context, and I just don't like that method of engagement, and so I just don't use Reddit very often. Sometimes I do. You know, there's a couple people that tag me on things, like, you know, some good wholesome threads that I'll respond to.
I used to be on it all the time until Jeff from our Discord and our admin decided he would do the posting for the show on the Reddit and manage the subreddit. And I was like,
that's brilliant. Yes.
Oh, I wash my hands of you,
Yeah.
Reddit. I'm checking out. I'll get the highlights in my email. If there's something like that gets a lot of upvotes or a lot of downvotes, I'm sure I'll get to take a look at it for the show. I don't need to come visit you anymore. Peace. And I was fine with that. But there is something new for people to complain about. And I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't think we're going to complain about it, but it is pretty cool. And that is that we have it's funny because everything that you bring up in the news is something that someone's been complaining about, it seems, recently. But let's talk about the Chinese server. So recently, DT Blade produced a video basically giving you a quick tour of the Chinese server and some of the features. So if you don't know this, games are released very differently in China than they are here. So for a game to be released, you have to have sort of like it's a completely different developer. So Bethesda's still involved and still owns the game in China, but Sparky Pants isn't the person who produces it or puts it out there. And so I don't know what the proper term is there, but they're not the ones who do it. So it's an entirely different company. So it looks entirely different. The interface is different. The marketing is different. Everything about the game is different, with the exception of the cards are the same, the quests are the same, and you have a lot of the same artwork. So there was a couple of key differences, and I think the one, I encourage you, just go to DT Blade's YouTube and watch it. But I think there's at least a couple of the features in this new thing that we would want to talk about. I don't know about you, but I think the biggest one for me, DBN, was the Battle Pass. Was that about the biggest one for you?
There was actually several features that I thought were really, really cool. We can talk about the Battle Pass first, though.
Yeah, so the Battle Pass I think it's a seasonal thing that you can purchase, right? And there's a free version and a paid version. If you've ever played Fortnite, it's very similar to that. But you would be able to pay for it, and I think their sort of quote unquote season isn't monthly; it is between expansions. So for us, it'd be about every 3 months. And I understand that this particular client only has the base set in Dark Brotherhood in it, so it doesn't have anything other than that in it right now. So it's even before I started playing, because I started playing during Heroes of Skyrim, and so the Battle Pass, basically you level up by playing games, and it gives you packs of cards and gems and glyphs, which are basically wild cards that you're seeing in Magic the Gathering. It's in Legends of Runeterra. It's in Mythgard as well. And they're basically like a common wild card. It's a glyph. You can just use it to craft any common card that you want. And then you also sort of unlock pieces of the Madhouse collection. And so some of these other collections and monthly reward cards that they've put out in the past, they're giving out groupings of them through the Battle Pass if you pay for the premium version of the Battle Pass. And you level up, and then once you hit max level, instead of stopping, you can actually continue to level throughout the season as long as you want. And every time you level, it gave you 35 more gold. So in addition to getting, a sack of gold every 3 wins, you're also getting 35 gold every time you leveled up on the Battle Pass. My initial thoughts on this was, wow, it's pretty stinking cool. But DBN, what did you think about the Battle Pass feature? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, Battle Pass isn't really done in CCGs that much, as far as I know.
I don't think at all. That's the first time I've ever seen one in a CCG.
There's like a pseudo CCG game, but that I know that has it. But it's not super not a big name thing, but it's not, and it's not even truly a CCG, which is Minion Masters has one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting way to approach it, especially because of it was lumping in a lot of the Madhouse collection cards and the monthly rewards cards into that, so you could get it through the battle pass instead of crafting it. So if you missed out on like the monthlies from one of the months, like right now, you have to go craft them. You can't get them any other way. I think that could be an interesting way to go back and get some of those, especially if they offered altered art. Which would be the only way to apply it in this setting. I will say I actually had a conversation with one of the people on my YouTube page, actually on the last episode that we did, where we talked about story expansions, and we talked about like why we thought they were really good and they should bring it back. And he said, I really hate story expansions, but I don't hate story. He's like, I like story. He's like, but I hate story expansions because I don't like the idea of paying for something and not getting the cards right away to use, instead having to grind through a story to get access to the things I just paid for, right? And I kind of floated the idea, kind of talking with him, like, well, okay, well, what if you got all the cards right at the beginning and instead completing the story gave you card backs, alternate arts, maybe like, a couple premiums or, gems or gold or whatever, titles, right? And he's like, yeah, that would make a lot more sense. The thing I would be concerned about implementing a battle pass is the idea that you pay for the battle pass, and it's the thing I don't like about battle passes, frankly, in a lot of other games. You pay for the battle pass, and then you have to actually grind a lot of games to get what you paid for. Otherwise, it's actually a bad investment, right? And right now, like I buy the Apex Legends battle pass every season because that's the only thing I spend money on in that game. It's my way of kind of supporting a game that I've gotten hundreds of hours of enjoyment out of, and because I actually play the game enough with my buddies to complete the battle pass, right? It comes down to the wire, but I get it done.
But you get it.
Right. So I can see there being some concern there, especially frankly for a Western audience who is a little bit sick of the battle pass method of, payment method, not liking it. So I'm not sure if it would translate well. What I did like, the wild cards, that's the new standard.
Yeah,
that's going to be the new standard, and TESL would be wise to adapt to it.
That needs to happen, man. Legends of Runeterra uses it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love it in Mythgard. In fact, I've been holding on to a couple like mythics, or basically legendaries, mythic wild cards for a couple of the colors because I'm not sure which one I want. And I can't decide, and so I'm like, all right, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to wait till I pull one of them and then pick the other with my wild card. So, yeah, like. Okay. I'm just saying, like, I like it. I hope TESL might implement it. I'm kind of skeptical, but we'll see. There's been an interesting response to it.
Spot for me. The battle pass itch is a spot for me. Like I like that. I actually really loved it when I played Fortnite for like 2 seasons, just sort of messing around with it. Actually, what got me to come back and keep playing was I love leveling up and I love completing
like
things.
Advancement.
Yes, I love that. And
I can
when
see
the
that.
only advancement is like stars back and forth, sometimes I can get frustrated and just quit playing. And once I hit legend and I know I'm not going to be able to reach top 100 legend because I just don't have the time or the skill set to do it, I'm basically done for the month. Like I don't have anything to do other than log in and complete my quest, which is advancement for me. If there was a battle pass to finish off and level up in, like there would be reason for me to come back and keep grinding games and continue to play the game. That would actually get me to play TESL way more. The thing that got me to play Hearthstone a ton was grinding 500 wins in every class to get the golden classes. Once I had it, I lost interest a couple months later and never went back to Hearthstone because that sense of advancement, even when I was losing games, I was still, I guess you had to win games, but even though I was losing, but I was learning and I was grinding those games towards the 500 wins, even if I wasn't playing ranked, even if I wasn't trying to get to legend or knew I wasn't going to get to legend. So I like that. Give me some more stuff to achieve. And they gave us, they have the battle pass. They also have some other things in there that they have to work towards as well, which I thought were really cool.
Yeah, they had like color attribute levels. So like as you play colors, you would advance your attribute level. Now I can imagine that getting cleared pretty darn quickly, which is the problem
especially with Tricolor.
Yeah, well, also with like the leveling system for, like 50 levels or whatever that's currently in TESL for your profile level. Like that was that's a breeze, and it's honestly antiquated in my mind. Like, I don't like player profile leveling, but I can see the battle pass being fun if, and here's the thing, if it's not something where it's giving you cards that you already have, or that you don't already have, I mean. Like, I don't think I would enjoy it if I could only get this one card through that. Say like you can only get this. If it was like a Madhouse collection that got dropped, like that level of thing that got dropped along in a battle pass where I have to progress to get access to those cards, no.
Frustrating.
But like alternate arts, card backs,
Yes,
like I did look at that. I felt like the battle pass was maybe even a little sparse for my taste when I looked at it in his video, and like the rewards, like it's a lot of, here's 100 gold and some gems and arena ticket or whatever. And I was like, I've got 50 freaking arena tickets. I don't need any more arena tickets. But I tell you what, card backs, titles, especially goofy titles, I think they could go. Yes. I really am still waiting for them to add a player profile, like the little portraits. I want more portraits in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things I'd spend money on. I actually forgot. I was going to spend money on I was going to spend $20 to get the alternate art cards.
Black Dragon.
Yeah, Black Dragon. And then there was one of the rares that I really wanted. And I forget what it was.
There's only one rare, and it was Crown Quartermaster. Is she rare? No.
Yeah, it was two rares, I think, or maybe it was a common. But there was Crown Quartermaster was one that I really like and I play a lot of. And there was another one that I thought all the ones were good, and it was a decent deal. But I ended up forgetting and not buying it. But oh well. And like, I wish I could go back and get those in a battle pass.
Or introduce new stuff in the battle pass. And if you don't want to get titles or new card backs or alternate art, then you don't get the battle pass, and that's fine.
Sure.
You're right. I wouldn't want like the Madhouse collection for me locked behind a wall, where the only way that I could get my hands on it is if I not only bought the battle pass, but then I grinded it the whole way out to level 100. I wouldn't like that either. I would do it, but I wouldn't love it. But if you gave me cosmetics at the end of that grind, I would still grind it and I would enjoy it, and I would be very happy for the cosmetics at the end of it as well.
You know what else I thought was really interesting, although I don't think it would be used? I mean, I've got to imagine like the Chinese internet situation makes this useful. Like they probably don't get access to Legends decks and stuff like that, because I know that internet works differently in China and like the websites are different. But they had the feature where you could go to the leaderboard, and they had leaderboards for classes, like class leaderboard, which I think would be dope.
Yes.
I don't think I would ever use it, but I think it would be cool for the people that are interested in that. I change decks too often to get any use out of that. But you would go to the leaderboard, and on the leaderboard it would show their most played deck on their way to that rank. And you can look at that deck list. It'll tell you how much you need to craft it. And then you can spend 1 gold, and that gold goes to that player. It doesn't go to the ether. It goes to that player. And it'll copy that deck list into your collection, deck collection thing, right? Uncompleted, but it'll copy that deck list. Now, obviously, I don't know how much that would get implemented or how much that would be utilized, considering we have Legends decks. But I love the idea of it being public knowledge what people are playing at the top levels. I think that's really cool. Some people might not like it. All the time. I would love to see it. I think that'd be interesting. And I don't use Legends decks that much, not gonna lie. I very rarely go on that site, but I appreciate it. But like I don't know how much the 1 gold exchange thing would be necessary, but being able to look at the deck list and see what people are playing up at those high ranks, I feel like that's really neat. And I think that would be cool, unless you're one of those players up there who are really, for some reason, stingy about showing off your deck lists, in which case, well,
sure, I think that would be frustrating for some folks who are ladder warriors and want to come up with unique decks. They don't want people to know about them. But I love the 1 gold exchange, and here's the reason why. 1 gold would never mean a thing to me. I would never care. I would go, if I wanted to go play Crusader, I'd be like, you know what, I'm really feeling like playing Crusader today. I'm going to go in, look at the top Crusader lists. I'm going to pick one of the top 5. I'm going to copy it. It's going to send that person a gold, because copying it and sending that person a gold is easier than me pulling out my iPhone, taking a picture of the screen to get an idea of what your deck is, and then going into my manager and crafting it. The 1 gold is easily worth that much time for me. 5 gold is worth
Yeah,
that. Five
I think.
five gold of money that isn't a real thing is well worth not wasting my time doing that. And then the next time that person logs in, me and maybe, you know, 40 other people or 150 other people, or if you're rank one, maybe 4,000 other people did it. You log in and you get a couple of thousand gold because people were willing to copy your deck for a gold. I think that's awesome. I,
Well,
I
I
love
think
that.
more than anything else, it is a cool thing. Less about the goal, but more about the people liked my deck enough to want to. It's a basically in my mind with the World of Legends decks. I don't think people would ever do it for the utility of copying the deck. Much, obviously, sometimes sure, but largely, I think there's enough stingy people that play these games, specifically digital card
Okay,
games.
that
They
could
wouldn't
be
want to
that.
do that, but they may do it as a tipping mechanism. Like, thanks for the deck
Yes.
list, bud. That's a great deck list. Boom. I mean, I would probably do that. Go and be like, oh, let me copy this. Oh, that was sweet. Tip. You know what I mean? Like, there's something fun about being able to, in game, thank somebody for coming up with something cool. I like that a lot.
I actually really like that too. And it would even be cool if they gave that it was like a tip option, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you click the copy button and you could like have it be like a 1, 3, 5, and 10 gold tip that you could send the person, or you could
Mm-hmm.
enter a custom amount. Now that it gets a little bit sketchy, right? Because then if I know that I want to give a whole bunch of gold to your account, like you probably couldn't do a custom amount, right? Because if I knew I wanted to give a whole bunch of gold to your account,
Yeah, I think that'd be
DBN,
kind of
and
sketchy.
I could go over there and find
It
your
would have to
deck
be,
and
yeah.
then tip you 5,000 gold, and you could then slide me money in real life, right?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
I
what you could do
understand
is
you couldn't
basically
do
get
that, but
multiple accounts and then start like multiple
copying.
accounts and then start throwing all the gold you make into one account.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know how efficient that would be, but someone would probably do it. But yeah, no,
Well,
the idea, the general concept of being able to say thanks for the deck, or even upvoting, hell, even if it's not tipping with a gold, even just upvoting someone's cool thing that they're doing, in client, that's cool.
right in
I
client,
like
yeah.
that general, vague idea.
The leaderboard concept is a really cool one, and it's really cool because then it gives you rewards as well. And so they have another form of currency in the game, so it's not just golden gems. They also sort of have like a meta, um, like currency. And honestly, I don't like that. Like every game, like you get like in Elder Scrolls Blades, like you have gold, you have
Mm-hmm.
resources, and then you also have green gems, and you can go buy stacks of green gems in the store. I don't actually like that because it
No,
makes it feel more mobile than it does an actual card game. It feels more like a mobile game.
agreed.
Um, but one of the cool parts is that every month you got a reward, if you were at the top of the leaderboard, for legend, or if you were at the top of the leaderboard for any one of the particular classes. And then every season you could get an even better reward if you were at the top. So if you were just an avid Crusader player for 3 months and you were able to just grind games and stay at the top of those leaderboards, you're going to get rewarded for staying at the top of the Crusader leaderboards. Not as much, but in a similar way to getting rewarded for staying at the top of Legend. I thought that was a really cool feature too, and it kind of encourages you to sort of pick a class and have it as a bit of an identity, right? Like I'm the guy. You
Sure,
could have someone who's like they're the person who's always at the top of the mage ladder, right?
sure.
And I think that's a really cool feature and gives a little bit more identity and gives people the ability to sort of like, yes, I am a player of this particular class, of this particular play style.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show evidence for that and some credibility for my deck building in this specific class and my play style in this specific class based off the fact that I've been at the top of these leaderboards repeatedly. I think that that's a really cool thing. And
Yeah,
I think
totally
that's an
agree.
awesome feature to be added.
I mean,
Um,
that's never something I would mess with, but that's not to say that I wouldn't I can't see any reason why that shouldn't be implemented because there are people who would really like that. You know, I mean, I know people who would really like that because they consider themselves specialists in certain classes and they really like certain classes and they play those predominantly. So yeah, I think that'd be sweet.
or even if for myself, right? Like I play a wide variety of stuff, but if I knew, like, what, I'm really feeling like I want to play Empire right now, or I'm really feeling like I want to play Daggerfall. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
I want to play Daggerfall Covenant. I might go on, like, oh, you know what? I know for a fact that DBN has played a lot of Daggerfall Covenant, and he has like a handful of decks. I'm gonna go look and see if I can find him on the leaderboard. Oh, maybe you're not at the top, but this is the Daggerfall Covenant deck that he's been playing this season.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I want to play his because I know that
Well,
he's a Daggerfall Covenant player, so I'm gonna tip him a
if
gold and
there's
play
like a
it.
search feature where you can search for player specifically.
Yes, yeah.
That'd be great.
And it's like, hey, I'll give this guy a gold because he came up with this deck. I'm gonna go try his deck. I sort of can find the decks of the players that I like their play style or I enjoy their deck building, and I can go throw them a tip and copy their deck. It'd be cool to be able to follow deck builders and stuff. That's awesome.
You know what would be better than paying a gold to copy the list? Paying a gold to reveal the list.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be way cooler. I mean, and then once you reveal it, you can copy it. You know what I mean? Okay. But then if somebody really wants to know what, Indo's playing at the top of the ladder or Flo is playing at the top of the ladder, okay, boom, there's a gold. Now, I know, sure, somebody might tip the gold and then share it to everyone.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, but that's where I think the ease of use is different. I think the ease of use of, here's the list, I'll just copy it, I'll screenshot it, and then enter it manually, versus, okay, I have to go on Reddit and hunt it down and, blah, 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 and then it might change. Like, I think that would be really cool, is like pay a gold to reveal the list, see it for yourself, copy it, go. And then, of course, the list might change over time as the players make tech choices and stuff like that. Yeah,
sure.
I think that would be a cool way to do it.
It would be curious to know kind of how they do it from the back end. Like, if this person's at the top rank, when you click reveal the deck, does it reveal the deck that they played in their most recent game, or does it reveal the deck
most?
Okay, the one that they've played the most.
Yeah, on this season.
Okay, that makes sense. Because otherwise, you could hide the deck, right? Just like grind a bunch of games, get up the ladder, and then your last one just play a completely different deck so people can't figure out.
Yeah, you could. I mean, people do
playing.
that. People do that. Like, they'll get all the way up to Legend, and then like top 100 is a very different meta from rank 4. I mean, even when I would be up in top 500, and there's a couple times where I played around in top 100, and I never really tried to finish there. I just don't play enough to want to continually log in and make sure, okay, am I still in top 100? Better play some games. I'm not that kind of person. That would stress me out, and I wouldn't have fun doing it. But even when I would just kind of casually end my season in the top 500 or so, that environment is very, very different from when you're playing in 4 and 5, and you can assume that people are not going to be playing as many experimental things. And if they are playing something experimental, it's not going to be weird garbage. It's going to be something with a game plan intact. You can probably start deciphering, this is Steeler Secrets. Okay, got to be aware of that. So even the things that are weird are not going to usually be bad. So you take that into consideration and say, all right, I can make these certain judgment calls. And so, of course, you structure your decks differently in those environments where you're going to see less ridiculous greed piles. Probably, maybe not. Depends on the environment, but you're going to see.
There's never really the opportunity when you're in that top section where you can just exhale and be like, oh, okay, this deck sucks. I'm going to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly.
You always got to be vigilant.
And heck, I mean, you can play some weird stuff. I mean, I played Animal Monk in the top 500 for a season, and it went 500. I mean, it did okay. It wins a game, then loses a game. Wins a game, and loses a game. And it wasn't a very good deck, but I was a good player and good enough to. It was also not bad enough to be, hot garbage. I mean, hell, with animals, you still get cliff racers. Yes. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things. Go check out DT Blade's channel, guys. You'll be able to see that video. It's not super long, but he kind of goes through some of the things that are different there. It's not enough to make me want to go over and make an account on it. I mean, if you do, I think he said you have to do like an emulator or Android emulator. Yeah. But it's more an interesting thing where, okay, this is the same game, but put in the hands of different developers, and they made a different client, and here are some of the ideas they had, and maybe these are ideas that Sparky Pants might look to include down the road. Probably not soon. Don't get in your minds it's going to be soon, but I mean that's a lot of work that they have to do to implement client changes. But that might give them a cool idea, and we might see that. That might be the inspiration they need. you know?
We had the exact same thing with Hearthstone. The Hearthstone Chinese client looked way different than the Hearthstone NA client, and it had many of the same features that the Legends client has in terms of leaderboards and rewards.
Hmm.
And have never ever got that in Hearthstone. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think
But
the
let's
culture there is a bit different too, though.
Well, yes, that is true.
Mm.
Let's move over to our big topic for the day. And it might not be a huge topic, but it's a pretty big topic and something that me and DBN had wanted to sort of dive into a little bit, and that is sort of how do you get started with content creation? How do you dive in if you've been thinking about becoming a content creator? You've been thinking maybe I'm going to stream, maybe I'm going to podcast, maybe I want to do some YouTube videos, maybe I want to write any sort of content creation. How do you get started, and how daunting is it? Because it seems rather daunting sometimes to get started into it. And we had a couple of questions who came in over our Discord that I think that we should maybe address right at the beginning because it'll get our conversation going. And this is a great one. It came from Beefquake. He says, it's a simple question. How do you find an audience? Content doesn't mean much without eyes and ears to consume it.
I mean, do you want me to answer first?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the first thing that's interesting about that is that the idea that content doesn't mean anything unless people watch it. And I would push back against that notion just a touch because content may not... You get that impression at first until you realize that sometimes content is way more useful as a tool for self-growth. And to be able to look at yourself. And so, like, I mean, when you first start streaming, you have, if streaming was what you wanted to do, or if YouTube is what you wanted to do, doesn't matter. But I'm going to use streaming as an example because it's simpler. When you start streaming, you're going to have a lot of streams where you see between 0 and 5 viewers. And it usually will be like, oh, look, I've got 5 viewers. Wow. And then, oh, they left. Darn. Right? That's how it goes, guys. That's how it goes. Okay.
Every one of my streams so far has been between 0 and 5.
Right. But that doesn't mean that the content you make there is without value because nobody watched it, because you improved and you probably got ideas of how you can engage better, improve the channel, add peripherals, look at, oh man, that my sound wasn't great there. I just noticed that. I wouldn't have known that had I not produced this content that no one watched, right? And then, those micro improvements that you develop through making content, and people, maybe you even get bad feedback on it. And that might make you feel bad, but you go and say, okay, well, wow, all right. That guy might have been a jerk in the way he said it, but that's something to look at. Maybe I need to improve on this, right? And so you can look at saying, okay, well, they didn't like my lighting. All right, well, great. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have made this content. Or heck,
Sure.
You look at your own channel and say, man, would I watch this? If no, why not? Right? So, yeah, that's just the one thing. But then growing an audience is, I think, it's about a couple things. One, I think it's about just being regularly producing something so that people know
consistency.
Right, because I think there's a certain degree, pressing that follow button isn't much, at least on, follow or subscribe or whatever. It doesn't take much, but it does represent this small investment in the eyes of the person who clicked it, right? Because they're going to receive notifications when your videos drop. They're going to be, it's going to pop up in their little follow bar on Twitch, on YouTube, right? And so they don't want to follow someone likely if that person has just started streaming. They don't know when they're going to stream, or they don't know when their next video is going to be. They have no idea there. I didn't see any YouTube growth until I started committing to making at least 2 videos a week. I didn't really see any growth. I would post a video sporadically. Once, I posted, oh, here's a video, and then 2 weeks later, here's another video, and then a video the next day, but then no video for 4 weeks.
Sure.
People don't get behind that kind of content. It's not saying you have to have a rigorous schedule, but you have to have some sort of a schedule in mind. And if you can't meet it some days, that's okay. But that's what's going to bring in viewers because they're going to know what to expect. People like knowing what to expect. So that's kind of how you grow the audience. I'm not sure if that really answered the question.
Well, yeah.
But
And I think for me personally, the question was, how do you find an
Find
audience?
an audience. Yeah.
I agree with the fact that if my thing is really if you're not enjoying it, I think one of the best ways to find an
True.
audience is to enjoy what you're doing.
Yep.
Because if you're not enjoying it, it doesn't make any sense. And I did a Hearthstone podcast. I did 55 or 56 episodes, weekly episodes of a Hearthstone podcast. And I don't know that we ever have really had any listeners.
Hmm.
I never had anybody email me in over a year of recording, but I did it with two buddies and I really enjoyed doing it. And I learned a tremendous amount without listeners. I learned a tremendous amount about microphones, about equipment, about Audacity, about all of these programs that I can use. And now that I'm back to podcasting after a year or so break, I have learned way, way, way more about it and about how to make a show better, how to make audio better, things like that. So you are kind of always learning things. But I'll be honest with you, like find a gap.
Hmm.
I know that sounds crazy. It just find a gap. It's about finding a space where you don't see it happening. If you go and you're looking for content and you're not finding it, you're not the only one wanting content and not finding it.
Hmm.
So I was always a podcast listener, and I loved listening to podcasts while mowing the grass or driving in my car. And when I got back into Legends, I began looking for a podcast, and literally the only one that I can find was Podcast at a Time, which was DBN's podcast, and he hadn't done an episode in a while. And I
Hmm.
was like, there. I just realized there is no weekly show for this game.
Hmm.
I was like, there is a gap here. There's a void, and I can't be the only person pulling up Apple Podcasts and searching for Elder Scrolls Legends and being disappointed that there's not a weekly show. There has to be somebody else out there that's doing that. And as it turns out, there's a couple hundred other people who are doing the same thing, and they found Legends Cast because I would just opened up my computer one night, plugged a USB microphone in that I borrowed from the church, and just started talking. I Googled a couple of which we can get into resources in a second, but
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a
I
separate
think
thing. Yeah.
yeah, looking for a gap because I think there's some resource suggestions that we're able to give. The other question that we had was, how do you keep the game you choose and build an audience from becoming a grind or a chore? And I think that DBN, you're definitely best to speak to that.
Well, to a certain degree, you can't
Sure.
there will always be that idea of burnout. It happens. You cannot work. I mean, whatever you say, content creation is work. Okay, there's very few people that can go on, start streaming, and stream, and not have it feel different. Maybe not bad different, but not have it feel different from them sitting and playing the game they love by themselves. And usually, you don't pick a game you don't pick a game if you don't love it. People don't start making content for things they don't like. Okay, so you have to start realizing if you choose to create content, it often will recontextualize both the enjoyment of a game that you're making content for, as well as the purpose of when you sit down to play it. But there's great things that come alongside that too, right? One of the things I don't think I really counted on, like when I started streaming it, my expectations were always minor. It's like, oh, I love playing this game. I want to get more involved in the community, and I want to this is something I've seen people do streaming. They seem to have fun. They build a community. That sounds cool. I want to do that. I want that, part of my engagement with this game that I like, right? And I get that. And I got that, right? Because now I have a dozen or so people who are regulars in my channel, even when I don't stream super often, who always come by and they give me great ideas and feedback on things. And I mean, I can name off a bunch of people, but the point is that becomes the new focus, not necessarily the game itself. And you have to reconcile that fact that a lot of times the game will feel not necessarily like a chore, but that what you're doing has an end goal outside of it being for enjoyment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I played some rounds of TESL today, not particularly because I knew that I wanted to, but I knew that I was podcasting about it tonight, hadn't spent a ton of time on the ladder, wanted to go spend a little bit of time on the ladder, and it was almost like research as much
Mm-hmm.
as it was
Yeah.
playing a couple of games
Mm-hmm.
of TESL. It was like it was
Research.
research because I didn't want to feel like I had no idea what I was talking. I mean, in comparison to a lot of players, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but like I didn't want to feel like a complete buffoon getting on the show, and also I don't want to feel disingenuous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the other thing I noticed, and this is why I didn't continue any sort of a streaming pattern, was when I would sit down at my computer and boot up TESL, if I wasn't booting up OBS, I would feel guilty.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is not a good place to be in.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about this earlier, the idea that like I went to visit my parents about an hour away, and I can't stream from my laptop. It won't handle it. And I was like, I am not bringing my desktop. No. Right?
No.
So I went and I played on my phone, and I realized I can do a little bit of research here, and I still did that a bit with TESL, I got to admit. Where like I was like, okay, what am I gonna play on? What am I gonna play for YouTube next week when I'm back?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? But I did find myself dropping some games on decks that I just like playing, even though I've made videos on them before. I dropped some games on Daggerfall, just because I love it. I dropped some games on Goblin Scout, or Goblin Monk, excuse me. I've been wanting to play Goblin Scout because everybody's talking about it. But I've been playing Goblin Monk. And, I mean, I can't lose with that deck. Holy crap. That deck is...
I do like Goblin Monk.
Goblin Monk right now feels stupid strong. And I can't seem to have a losing record with that anytime I sit down. I mean, just for anyone out there who's listening and you're looking for a deck that's
Goblin
fun,
Monk.
try that Goblin Monk. DT Blade's got a bunch of videos. I've got videos on it. I think Silverfuse has a video on it. Laser probably. Well, no, I don't think Laser does. But the point is, check it out. That deck's dope. It's so good. But I like playing it, but I'm never going to play that on stream. I'm never going to play that on YouTube because part of, and we can talk about this in a minute, part of my brand is that I play lots of different things. I don't just sit and grind the same deck. And that can, in a weird way, be limiting, right? And you have to think about part of it is like, think about what's limiting you through your content creation and deciding whether that's an acceptable limiting factor. Because there's something to be said for, like, if you make a bunch of videos, like 5 videos in a row on Goblin Monk, people are not going to want to watch them, right? I mean, some people will. People who really like you might. But it's not going to be the same as if you mix things up. But at the same time, you know, by doing that and saying I'm never going to play the same thing twice, or at least I'm going to have a big break between playing the same thing twice, you also are telling yourself it's not okay. Subconsciously, you start to say, oh, it's not okay to play that deck that you like because you've already made a video on it. Like, don't go do that. You need to keep innovating, keep innovating, keep innovating. And eventually your brain just wants some familiarity, and you start, like, getting weirded out by, like, this idea of, I'm running out of new ideas, right? And that's where you have to understand sometimes it's okay to just take a break, or to say, you know what? My audience may not find the most value out of it, but I will, you know? And that's okay, because ultimately, if you can't sustain it, you're going to end up quitting. You're going to end up stopping. I mean, there's a reason I'm taking a break from streaming right now, is because I couldn't sustain it. And I stream irregularly now, and that's good enough, right? It's just going to have to be good enough for the people that support me and the people that support my, content. Sorry, I wish I could stream more, but just your personal well-being comes first, because if your personal well-being goes, there isn't any content in the first place. So that's a big thing. And I guess the other thing too is, like, this is just very minor. Then I want to hear what you have to say, Mark, because I'm interested, especially on the podcasting side of things, because you kind of run a lot more of the stuff than I do.
Sure.
But the last thing I will say is, like, when you're setting the expectations for what kind of content you are going to make, be very careful about setting that in stone, because people will start expecting that. And, there's a certain level of entitlement, but that comes along with viewership. I mean, like, across everything, we're all guilty of it. We all feel entitled to certain things of the things that we, patronize, so we're all guilty. I'm not calling anyone out. But that's just the truth. If you set those expectations publicly, I'm going to do this, and then you realize you can't follow through, one, there's guilt that comes with that, which you don't want involved in the content you make. Two, you have to now either pursue it without the hopes of achieving it, or you have to double back on what you said, and neither of them feel very good. So just be honest and say, I think I want to do this. I might do this. I can try this. But before you set any type of, I am a this streamer, I am a that streamer, I'm the mage guy. Well, if you're the mage guy and you get tired of mage, what are you going to do? So
now you got to be the scout guy?
Yeah. You have to be very careful about those expectations.
I don't want my brand. I don't want to have like a logo made that says Mark Lutz, the mage guy. Because if I suddenly don't want to be the mage guy, I have two options. Either I can quit or I have to rebrand.
Right. Well, and just be very careful about you want to avoid setting too many limiting factors on the type of content you create, because even just being I'm the TESL guy, that can be damning. I know, and I'm not gonna call them out, but I know several people right now, like almost two hands of people who made their name, quote unquote, in TESL, or actually, I also know some people who made their name in other games and want to poke around and try some other things, but because they were so dialed in and so very open, I'm a TESL player, I'm a TESL this, I'm a TESL that, their identity became forged and they're having a hard time breaking away from it. That's just something you want to be careful about, is cementing your identity too much in any one game, any one type of deck, any one type of play style, in any one type of appearance, physical appearance. We talked with Silverfuse about the bow, remember?
Sure.
And now the bow, she still gets questions about where's the bow? Where's the bow? And
it's been years.
It's been years.
It's been years.
Yeah.
So
that's something, yeah.
There's some of that you do need to be careful of. There is something to be said about having a pretty narrow focused vision to target a group of people, and that does help you find an audience. Like the fact that we're a TESL podcast and not a CCG podcast or a TCG podcast is helpful to us, because we're able to attract people who like TESL, and there's not many people that quite honestly have enough time in their life to play 3 or 4 or 5 trading card games or collectible card games that they would want to hear about. And so we have a narrow focus. And to be honest with you, our podcast is exclusively tied to Elder Scrolls Legends. And I know that we could maybe go and branch into some other card games, but most of our audience, most of our audience listens to it because they play Legends and that's what they want to hear about. So we're pretty dialed into that at this point. And not that we couldn't branch out, and we might at some point, but Legends is probably going to be one of the primary conversations, or the primary conversation of the show, as long as it exists. It actually would be probably more work for us to switch this to something like Legends of Runeterra than it would be to just create a new show around Legends of Runeterra.
100%.
It would just be way easier for us to just quit doing this and start a new one. So I'm just going to say this: how do you not avoid burnout? You just have to be you have to be a pretty resilient individual. Yeah. Like there's a certain amount of it that's mentally fatiguing. I'll be honest with you. My wife is sick upstairs. She's taking care of a 2-month-old. My 2-year-old is almost guaranteed not asleep right now. So she's having to lay down a screaming 2-month-old to go rock a 2-year-old while she's sick, and I'm downstairs talking about a card game, a digital card game. I don't even necessarily want to be recording tonight. I want to be with my family. But I know that there's a certain amount of resiliency and commitment that goes along with recording and making content. And if you don't have the fortitude or the resiliency to do it, it's going to be a slog for you, and it's going to be tough. And I'm not speaking poorly about people who take breaks or change up patterns. I think at different seasons in life, it requires different patterns. I'm not going to be resilient in the terms of this podcast forever. There will come a time when this show likely doesn't exist unless TESL blows up and this becomes my full-time job. And to be perfectly honest with you, A, that's never going to happen. No. And B, even if it did become my full-time job, no game lasts forever.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure 100%. That people who are Hearthstone podcasters right now, if they were doing it full-time, are shaking in their boots because they're realizing they better branch out and make some new content, because this isn't going to be profitable forever. So, I'm doing it. You have to enjoy it, but you also have to have some level of resiliency. On Thursday, it's going to be my day off. I'm going to be out 4 or 5 nights this week. We're heading into Christmas season in church world. That's incredibly it's a really busy time. I'm out almost every single night this week, other than a night for this and a night where I'm going to be playing D&D. So on Thursday, I want to go hang out with my kids, but at some point, I'm going to come down to the basement. I'm going to boot up the audio software. I'm going to be editing some stuff. I'm going to be uploading it and publishing it and putting it out there. It's one of the reasons why we don't do additional content for patrons. It's one of the reasons that I don't do YouTube. I don't do a lot of streaming. I don't do any of that stuff. Why? Because I know the commitment that takes. I've counted the cost and I know I can't pay the cost. And I don't want to be the type of person who gets into something without counting the cost and then not being able to finish what I said I was going to do. And sometimes you do just need to count the cost and say, I can't do this. You just can't. A couple of weeks ago, my wife and I it was just like, I can't go downstairs and record right now. And we pushed the Silver Fuse episode back a week because I counted the cost and I was no longer willing to pay the price. And I think that in your life, you need to do that with everything. But if you're going to be a content creator, you have to acknowledge the fact that before you say, you know what, I'm committing to streaming 5 days a week, like count that cost. Are you actually willing to pay that price? Because it's going to cost you something. Relationships, physical health, emotional health, everything. It's going to cost you something. DBN, I know that you probably have some to say about branding. I wanted to give just briefly a couple of tools out there because I think people get into this and they think, oh my gosh, this is really expensive. I can't get into this. And obviously, like everything, you build stuff over time. I'm looking now at saving up for a $400 or $500 upgrade to my microphone setup, but I didn't start off that way. Right. So do you have a couple of tools? I know I have a couple, but do you have a couple of tools that like if you're just getting started, there's some free stuff out there that you can start working with?
Well, I mean, obviously OBS is like the streaming platform.
And it's free.
It's free. And there's so many guides out there, so many to get set up that like it really is pretty easy to get. I mean, it'll take an afternoon to figure out some scenes and stuff like that, but it's not crazy hard. It has no expense entailed. Right.
And you can get a ton of overlays free online.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
Tons of stuff.
I mean, I exclusively use like free stuff online. So I use, let's see, Streamlabs, for like notifications,
and that's also
or chat
free, right?
Notifications and stuff. That's free. There's a site, and I don't exactly remember what it's tied into, that I use for that have a bunch of like overlays for different types of things, like called player.me. And I don't even
heard of that.
Yeah, I don't even really know if that's who that's owned by. But I use it and it works great. And I have several of my scenes set up through that, which is awesome, and they're free. There's a lot of free. I mean, the software is very, very free, which is great. For video editing, I do not have anything. I do not have any paid video software. I wish I did. I wish I could afford it, but right now I can't, so I don't. So what do I use? I use OpenShot Video Editor. I don't know where I found it. I just Googled top 10 like open source video editors, and that was one of them. I downloaded like 3 or 4, tried them. That was the one that I found easiest to do minor editing with. There are some more difficult ones that are also harder to learn, but all those sorts of things, there are guides out there. I am not a tech guy. I didn't go to school for this. This isn't something I'm largely self-taught and always trying to improvise and learning new things. And your best friend is the Google search bar. I kid you not. Because pretty much anything you can find either heavily discounted or for free if you look hard enough.
And then you can. So I'll give you a couple of things that I started out with that were free that get you going. So if you're into podcasting or audio stuff, which is I know nothing about it, right? But I just have sort of been self-taught as well. I knew nothing about it. So the first thing is you can get into like buying a website domain, hosting an RSS feed. I started off that way. What I found to be easier, I did with this episode, is download a free app called Anchor. Just look up Anchor in your app store on your phone, download Anchor, and you can start uploading audio right there. You can actually just hit the record button and start recording right from there from your phone, and you can just talk to your phone and you can upload episodes just like that, really, really easy. So Anchor, it's completely free, and it actually sends out your RSS feed to like 6 or 8 different podcast hosting sites. So that's an app that I suggest you get, and it has a web browser. I now do all my editing and then upload it through the web browser. The other one that is really, really helpful is SparkPost. SparkPost is a free Adobe product that you can use to be able to make graphics and begin building a logo and a brand. I have used that for all of our uploads that go over to Team Rankstar's website. All of our images that go up onto Reddit, those are all built by me in 8 minutes on SparkPost using Google Images. Unsplash.com. There's also an Unsplash app, is completely royalty-free, high-res, incredible photos. Now, you're not going to be able to use these necessarily for a gaming podcast, but if you're doing anything else, you're blogging, you're writing, you're doing anything where you need a graphic, you can actually use Unsplash and download photos from that. It's fantastic. I will reinforce and say that OBS is really good. Auditing. Auditing. Wow, you're not going to do any audits.
Well, you never know.
Well, maybe. Yeah, audio editing software. The free one is Audacity. Just Google Audacity. Audacity software. You can download it for free. It's quick. It's dirty. It's very difficult to figure out how to do advanced stuff in, and it's not real good at it. But if you just want to slap together some chunks of sound, the intros and outros I recorded myself on a microphone, and then I uploaded them into Audacity, or I used some beats that were pre-built into GarageBand on my Mac, and it took me a couple of minutes to throw those intro and outro noises together. It really is pretty simple, and you can actually get it all up and going with a quick logo and some artwork, with a free place to host your RSS feed and get it out there. You can use honestly, the microphone on your phone isn't good, but it's not awful if you can find a quiet place with a lot of soft sounds around you. Crawl up in a closet full of clothes and talk to your phone, and you can actually just record a podcast that way pretty easily. I'll say when you're getting a little bit more advanced, we record over of Skype, and I am now using a new program called Reaper. It's new to me to do my audio editing. It's $60 for a base license. It's a good upgrade when you're looking at getting into mic stand and stuff. I suggest starting off with Blue Yeti's line. They're not great, but they're the best. That's what I use right now. That's what you're listening to me on. It's the best probably for your buck before you have to go into like an interface and everything. If you just want to plug it into your computer through a USB, I have the Blue Yeti Nano. It's a much smaller than the original Blue Yeti, and it is higher bit rate. I think it's overall just a much better microphone than the original Blue Yeti, and so I think I saw them on Black Friday for $80, so you can get into it if you're building a little bit of an audience and you want to get a decent microphone so that you increase your audio. You can do that. You want to go really crazy, I think kind of like the industry standard is a $400 mic on Amazon and $100 or $150 interface that you plug it into, USB interface you get your mic into. So you can get into upwards of a couple $100. Obviously, everything keeps going up and up and up. I think DBN, you and I are now using the same webcam, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's like $100, and you can get it cheaper for
Just
deals
look for
on
sales.
Amazon.
It's always on sale. I got it on a ridiculous sale for like $35.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and I've had it for years.
Yeah, it's the Logitech C920,
something like that. But it has 1080 capabilities, so it's good enough quality. But honestly, guys, my main thing is if you want to get started and you're not sure if you're gonna like it, because the majority of if you enjoy streaming is gonna come from if you can sit at your desk for 3 to 4 hours minimum, because really you can stream for less, and it's okay if you do. But that's what's going to build an audience, is being there for an amount of time that they actually, if they show up, they're likely to have content for a decent amount of time. If you're streaming, but even if you're not streaming, let's say you're doing YouTube, you want to just get started. Let's say you're podcasting, you want to just get started. Quality is something that you want to upgrade quickly, but you shouldn't let it stop you from starting. There's a lot of things you can do in Audacity to improve the sound of your audio that can help kind of cover things up long enough for you to decide if it's for you or not. If you have a gaming headset, I mean, I know several people that started with a game. I streamed a little bit with a gaming headset when I started, when I had some issues with the microphone that I had from other things. And it wasn't a particularly expensive microphone anyways. I paid like $23 for like a Behringer, but I had access to a low rent mixer audio interface that I was able to get for free. But even that doesn't cost more than like $45. But I used those two things. But when I was having difficulty, I plugged in actually this headset right here, with a little microphone on it, USB headset. You just change your audio settings in OBS to pick this up instead of the desktop audio, or instead of whatever mic you were using, and then bam, you can use this, and this is fine. Not long term, but to get started and decide if you want to like it. Because heck, you know what would suck is if you spent $100 or more on something and found out you didn't like it. Like, yeah, you still have the equipment, but I mean that's not going to feel very good. So see if you like it first before you drop too much money on it. There's a lot of things that you can do. Heck, I mean, you can have those little headphones with the little, cell phone speaker. I've seen people use that before. Don't recommend it, but I've seen it. And you know what? There have been times when I've tuned into someone's channel and they've had bad audio, but because they were clearly enjoying what they were doing and the audio wasn't unlistenable, I stuck around. So just think about that, guys.
Yeah, and I guess it's easy to get started. I mean, I think I started in this particular podcast. I started with a microphone that I borrowed and a Mac. I just opened up my work computer. I downloaded the thing onto the free software onto my phone and onto my computer, and I just recorded in my living room. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually change. This won't help you if you're listening, because by the way, this is an awful thing to do if you're podcasting and streaming at the same time, just to give you a heads up. But I'm going to go ahead and change over my camera really quick, just so you can see. This room isn't what I started with, and now this is kind of what I've built and what I'm using now. Although it does definitely look like it's not working, so that's not very. That's so great. So yeah, hey, look at that. There we go. So this is what I'm working with now. I mean, but I built this room over the last couple of months. I had no really intention of doing this. It just became something that I enjoyed. And if I didn't like it, well, then I wouldn't have done it. But I began really enjoying content creation, and so I invested, time and energy and resources in it. But I didn't need to start this way, and I didn't even need to continue this way. So I don't want you to feel intimidated by how high the price tags can get. I was looking at streaming and trying to find the right camera, and was looking at like DSLRs and capture cards, and you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to get your face on the screen. And I was like, I don't need to go that crazy. And so, I think that you can sort of take that a little bit at a time and start off small. Don't let quality be the thing that stops you from doing it. And if you're going to do podcasting, it's about your microphone. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it's about. It's about your microphone and your area.
I will say one thing that, if you start, especially for streaming, but YouTube as well, one of the things that the way to think about it is there's so much to get set up. There's so much, and then you actually have to do it. I would say like one of the best tips I ever heard when I first started out was just fix one thing, improve one thing on your stream a day. It could be something as simple as a piece of art, or changing out your about page, or installing Streamlabs and start playing around with it. If you just create a big list of things that you want to add to your channel and just strike off one small thing every day and let that be enough. Like, don't try to go from zero to hero, before even deciding if you like it, before even deciding if it's worth it. And of course, that's the other thing too. Like, I think this is something I wrote down that I want to talk about, was like, I think setting proper expectations is one of the most important things for creating content, because I mean, you see all over Twitter, at least I do, people, successful streamers that love telling everybody how hard their job is. It's true. Their job is really hard. I can tell you because I do it. But there's a lot of people out there that want to, I don't want to say discourage people from doing it, right? But to frame it as this idea that everybody thinks they're going to get rich on it. I don't think that's the case. I think most people are genuinely understand, like, this is something you do because you're passionate about it, not because you want to make a bunch of money. You can. It could happen. And frankly, I'm the kind of person that I believe hard work makes, pretty much anything possible, but hard work times time, and it's going to take time for anything to develop to the point where it's, monetarily beneficial. So, like, it doesn't matter how good you are at a game. Doesn't matter how charming you are, how great equipment you are. That does not mean you're going to make it big. But that also doesn't mean that you shouldn't find a reason to make time for it. It shouldn't be your primary goal, right? But hey, listen, if you love making things, if you are looking for that creative outlet, if you love just playing games and sharing them with friends, then I think content creation has your name written all over it, because it doesn't have to be about making it financially sustainable. It can just be about the joy of building community and sharing the things that you love, and that's a good reason to make content. Mm-hmm. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You don't have to do 5 videos a week and try to become the next YouTube sensation. You don't have to stream, 16 hours a day, 6 days a week and be the next ninja, because even though that's so, this whole other thing, it's so hard to do. It's so much luck involved. There's so much, but don't let that be the discouraging point, because there's so many other great reasons to make content, even on the scale of 1 video a week or 2 streams a week. It can be worth it, because you'll be building a community that cares about you and that appreciates your ideas, and that is enough for me. And I got to imagine there's plenty of other people that feel the way I do.
Probably one of my favorite things that I've heard from one of our content creators actually came from LMAO when he was on, and LMAO said that he kind of has an entrepreneurial spirit, and so this was like a side business for him. And it was actually a very cheap way to start a company, which was kind of funny because I had never really looked at it that way. But that was kind of his mentality. Like, yeah, he has a job, but he's like an entrepreneur, and he really wants to start a new company himself. And this was actually one of the cheapest ways. He spent a couple $1,000s to buy his equipment and everything. And I'm not saying that you need to do that. I'm just saying that's what he did. I'm sure he spent a couple grand to buy all the equipment because he has a green screen in the room and the everything. And he bought all that stuff up and started because it was like a creative outlet for him. And that's the other thing. I think many of us need creative outlets. Mm-hmm. Don't feel like if your creative outlet is not podcasting or audio or something that you're wrong. If your creative outlet is painting, that's great. I can't paint. If it's writing, that's great. I don't write. But I have the gift of talking and speaking and presenting things. That's what I do mostly in my day-to-day life, and I have the ability to win others over with my speech. So like, this is a way for me to use the way that I'm uniquely created, the way that I'm made, and the way that I'm gifted in a creative outlet that isn't my work. And so it's enjoyable to me, and I like doing it. And sure, are there dreams like, oh yeah, you could hit big? Yeah, but I'm playing Elder Scrolls Legends and I'm making content for it. So you sort of like, yeah, if I was the first one on the scene to Legends of Runeterra, which by the way, there's already 2 podcasts about it, so I'm not. Sure, there may be a little bit more money to be made there. But if that is really your goal for content creation, I think you're going into it for the wrong reasons, and you'll get burnout really, really quick, because you're not going to make it big really quick. It isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
There is a certain
you might make it big someday, or you might make it enough to be a great side gig someday. But all of that takes time. And listen, right now I'm working towards that goal of, I want to get, over the next couple years, I want to get my YouTube to the point where I can start making a little bit of ad revenue on the side. I'm still a long ways away, and I know it, and I don't care. I'm having enough fun making the YouTube videos and enjoying the awesome feedback I get from people. And every time I get that extra subscriber on YouTube, I go, yay! And that's enough. It's just, you have to set those proper expectations, but don't let the difficulty and all the rhetoric surrounding, you see all these boomer posts, and I love this whole new okay boomer thing. It's hilarious to me. But you see all these boomer posts where all these kids want to go and make it big, being like Ninja, and the market sustainability won't support that. Yeah, they're totally right, but that's not that's not a reason to not try it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's not a good enough reason to discount the idea of making content, because making content can be just so, there's so much joy that I have sitting down sometimes, and sometimes it's a pain. But I sit down every time we do this podcast, and I love it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's there's so many great things to be had. I have some great friends that I get to make content with, that I've made through making content. I wouldn't have connected, with Mark or with Silverfuse or Lasergician, or anybody like that. I wouldn't get to, I DM Lord Costa about D&D stuff, but the only reason I met him was through casting, and like, I wouldn't have that like connection there without it. And, and sometimes it's not just about being a member of the community. You making content will frankly accelerate it. Not going to lie. Making content will accelerate your involvement with the community, whether you like it or not. And that's cool. And that's fun. Oh, yeah. So like, there's so many great reasons to make content. Don't let the, admittedly true, but obvious and overstated thing of you're not going to make it big, so it's not worth it. That's a lie. There are so many other reasons that it's worth it to make content.
Yeah, agree. Well, I tell you what, I think that's probably about going to wrap up this episode. I was going to dive into my closing thoughts, but I think this time I'm going to leave it out, and I'll save it for the next episode. So instead of getting into that, why don't we just talk about how people can get connected with what we're doing? So DBN, how can people find out, about you, your YouTube videos, the stuff that you're putting out there?
Well, I don't stream super often. I'm on a somewhat unofficial break from streaming. I probably will stream, every once in a while. So if you catch me, awesome. I'm on twitch.tv/deadbrokenerd. I hope to get back to a regular schedule sometime after the craziness of the holidays, and once my financial situation, admittedly, is more stable. My car broke down and is irreparable, so now that's stressing things out. So I haven't been streaming as much, but you can check me out over there. And that's also, of course, where we do the live broadcast, which we are now. If you're here in the Twitch chat, awesome. Welcome. And we're about to leave, but welcome anyways. But if you're listening later, you can watch us live. We do it at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays on my channel, so you can watch us live. And heck, we might even, answer a question or two at the end of the episode if you're around. So anyways, that's that. And then my YouTube is The Dead Broke Nerd. You can search it. And I make videos. I 3 to 4 videos a week on Elder Scrolls Legends, Gwent, Mythgard. So you can just check that stuff out. And Twitter, yeah, Dead Broke Nerd on Twitter.
Yep.
And that's a great place to get in contact with me for anything. You can DM me on Twitter. Feel free. You can also DM me on Discord. So yeah. Woo.
Great. Okay, so you can get connected with me primarily through the show. I'm going to go ahead and just throw up that Discord invite right there in the chat tonight. If you want to join our Discord, go ahead and join that Discord. It's a really great community. There's a lot of great things that are going on there, and it is it's like always way more positive than what Reddit is. So go ahead and jump into our Discord, and if you can't find us, just look up for Legends Cast on Discord and you can find us there. We have some great admins. If you want to support the show, you like what we're doing and you think is valuable and you want to give value back, please consider becoming one of our patrons. We haven't had a new patron in a couple of weeks. We'd love for you to become a patron. A couple bucks a month goes a long way to supporting DBN and I in replacing a car, in buying new equipment, in building a room. And we're not getting rich off this thing. I think since I started the podcast, I've probably made like $100. And this room cost me like $2,200. And that's not including any of the equipment that I've picked up. So I mean, we're not getting rich off this thing. But if you're willing to give us a little support, we can make improvements to the show, which is really, really important. So there's actually some audio equipment that I'd love to pick up. I'm sure there's some equipment that DBN would love to pick up that would make the show a little bit better. So consider going over there, or let us know. Maybe you want to buy us a piece of equipment. You message us, and or you want to buy DBN a car. You message us, and we'll set that up. We'll make that happen. So if you find value in what we're doing, please consider giving value back. Beyond that, I'm a pastor in my day-to-day life. So I would love to be praying for you, whoever you are, if you're in a dark time in life, or maybe you're just in a great time of life and you're looking for some prayer. I'd love to pray for you and listen to you. So that's the two ways that I want to support this specific community. And so if I can be praying for you in any way, please, please, please reach out to me. Reach out to me over Discord. Email me at eslegendscast@gmail.com. I've talked to some of the listeners over the phone. I've prayed with people over the phone. I've just listened to people. I'm not aggressive. I'm not oppressive. I don't shove things down people's throats. Genuinely just want to be there to be able to support you. I don't want you to ever think that you're alone. So if you need help, please, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask for help. I'd love to chat with you. And I'd love to I don't have answers, but I'm willing to be someone just to listen to you. So yeah, that's how you get plugged in with me. You can actually friend me over the game too. I'm the 113 Lift just about everywhere now. That's my Twitch page too, twitch.tv/the 113 Lift. That's my name on TESL as well. So you can just send a friend request to the 113 Lift. I have plenty of room on my friends list that you can be a friend on TESL as well. Okay, that's it. That's how you get connected with me. Anything else you want to share before we get out of here, DBN?
No, sir, but if somebody does want to have me look at a crazy deck, I'm always happy to look at a crazy deck. I may not get time to play it, but if it's particularly inspiring, I may try it on my YouTube page. So feel free to message me, or if you just want me to give you feedback on something TESL related or card game or content creator related, I'm happy to lend what little expertise I have.
There's a pretty cool Empire deck going on right now in our Discord. So get over there and check that out. Okay, that looks really fun. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode. That's episode 24 of Legends, guys. Thank you so much for stopping in and listening to us, and be sure to come back and listen again next week.